My name is Doug Lockwood. I'm the president of the Public Education Partnership of Winterhaven, Inc. I'm a full-time practicing attorney from Winterhaven, Florida, and have been so since 1979. I've involved myself in various community activities for many years, was president of the chamber, and in that capacity years ago, the state of public education in our schools was a topic of discussion amongst the board. There was considerable concern about the educational quality of our public schools and a heartfelt need that there needed to be more involvement of the community in the schools themselves with that effort to enhance the quality of public education here in Winterhaven. It also certainly for some was an economic issue because area businesses, certainly based on a survey that the chamber had conducted, felt that there was a real lacking in quality in our public schools. Those issues precipitated the Chamber of Commerce here in Winterhaven deciding to initiate a study of Winterhaven's public schools, and for that reason set up a educational outcome steering committee, of which I was a member. And it was important from the Chamber's perspective that all parts of the community be involved in that. For that reason, we selected educators to be on that committee, city officials, business people, and others to be a part of that committee, whose mission was to determine the status of the public schools in Winterhaven, what we as a community could do to make them better. The committee met a number of months and actually compiled a report looking at everything from the history of the public schools here in Winterhaven to specific criteria relating to the performance of the schools. And because one of the objectives of the committee was to inform the community at large as to why the public schools were the way they were today, looked at a lot of statistical information. In addition, compiled a lot of the history of the No Child Left Behind legislation, how that impacted our local schools, in an attempt to explain to the general public why we were where we were today. After that report, the Chamber recommended that we start a not-for-profit corporation known as the Public Education Partnership of Winterhaven, Inc., whose mission is through advocacy, community engagement, and collaborative partnerships, had committed to assure that Winterhaven's public schools were unequaled in quality, relevance, and student performance. But that's the mission. And in connection with that, we formed a not-for-profit. We created a board that we believe is representative of all members of the community, because we believe that schools can't do it alone. The community needs to engage with the school system and vice versa. And in that regard, we have made every effort to learn more about the schools and involve the schools within the business community and the larger community as a whole, with collaborative partnerships of various organizations here within Winterhaven, such as Toastmasters and others. One of the issues that we noted was that particularly our public high schools and middle schools are large institutions now. Winterhaven today is much different than it was 20, 25, 30 years ago. These are large schools. And one thing we identified was that student performance is enhanced through the development of small learning communities. So we, in partnership with the school board, looked at the possibility of creating more academies here in Winterhaven. There were a few that were in existence at the time. They were successful, but they only served a small number of students. So we engaged with the school board, and John Small was instrumental in assisting with that, as was Dr. Nickel, the school board superintendent. And we organized the community around various proposed academies here in Winterhaven. We are at a technological hub here in Winterhaven. For reasons of history, we have a fiber optic network that goes through Winterhaven that is second to none in the state of Florida, which gave us great capacity when it comes to technologically related academies. So we looked at each of the schools. We looked at the possibility of creating a cybersecurity academy, other technology academies, And as it's transpired this year, thanks to our partnerships with Polk State College, the school board, the city, and others, we're starting a robotics academy, now called a Techno-Robotics Academy, thanks to the vision of Dr. Boyer. And we're starting a cybersecurity academy at Winterhaven High School. One of the thoughts of the Public Education Partnership was to brand Winterhaven High School and Lake Region High School as high schools that had a somewhat different identity in terms of their respective strategies. We were looking at Winterhaven High School as a technology-related high school. Lake Region High School as a business-related high school. Very shortly after we formed PEP and started discussing the possibility of creating these small learning communities in our area high schools, the business community became very enthusiastic and excited. And as a consequence of that, members of the local bar association and other lawyers outside of this immediate area met to start a law academy at Lake Region High School. Winterhaven is really the epicenter of agriculture here in Central Florida. We have blueberries, oranges, other crops, and the agricultural interests in this area have formed a committee and with plans to start an agriculture academy not only at Lake Region High School but also at Winterhaven High School next year. Additionally, there were those in the financial planning services category, banking and accountants who thought that it would be great to have a global finance academy at Lake Region High School. So now that committee is meeting and expected to start an academy in global finance at Lake Region High School the following school year. One of the most exciting things about our trying to get the community involved in the schools is the interest that the business community has had. And one of the great things about academies is that it directly involves the business community into what happens in the schools. And to form this nexus between the business community and the schools I think it's going to make a significant difference in the quality of our schools here. Now, the Public Education Partnership of Winterhaven is much broader in scope. We're trying to develop partnerships with other community organizations to expand after-school programs, mentoring, and the like. The small learning communities that we're trying to create in the schools, I think, is going to make a significant difference, and it's probably one of the most direct ways the business community can be a part of our schools. I would advise certainly anyone who has a passion for education, if they're interested in starting a community organization or building a consensus within a community to engage the schools, to look for those leaders in the business community who are passionate about education. Forming a group to start meeting with school officials, to start meeting with city officials, to start engaging the community to build an interest and to be able to, perhaps even more importantly, show the community ways that they can involve themselves in the schools. For too long, education was going its own route, as was business. They need to engage each other together for the benefit of all.